here's another reason driving all of this. We are in a period of high consolidation. Company, quote, goes out of business. A company's bought by another company. This door is closing. They're acquired by so-and-so. In NAMM's world, our membership's declining.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, and yes, sadly, there are some companies going out of business. But more often, there are companies being acquired.
Mm-hmm.
And when big company A acquires little company B, in NAMM's current way of, or NAMM's previous way of thinking, we lost company B as a member. We're down. Send a report to the board. We're down a member. We didn't lose that member.
Welcome to Life with Strings Attached. I'm your host, Jamie Gale. This week I'm joined again by John Mlynczak, CEO of NAMM. With the NAMM Show 2025 right around the corner, we talk about what it takes to lead the world's largest music trade organization in a time of rapid change. John shares insights on how NAMM is more than just a show. It's a mission-driven association that serves and strengthens global music products industry all year round. From policy and tariffs to cultural insights in music making, member engagement, and even the implications of AI, John helps us understand what it means to truly serve the needs of an industry. We also explore the deeper side of leadership, investing in people, being honest about challenges, and staying curious in uncertain times. It's always a privilege to have John on the podcast. I hope that you enjoy it as much as I did. John, great to see you.
Jamie, great to see you.
Thanks for being on the show. Welcome to Life with Strings Attached.
Very exciting. Life has many strings attached these days, right?
Indeed. I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah. Are you at NAMM in San Diego these days?
Yeah, right here in the office. Yep.
Okay.
It's a great time. This is when there's this like little bumps of like show planning that happen. And this is definitely like 2 weeks before registration opening. Everything we've been working on since the last shows of starting to unveil. The map comes out. So this is a very high energy time in the office, which is really fun.
Yes. Yeah. I get these little things on my feed that are like, business advice kind of stuff. And one of them gave these sort of different ways to think about your business. And one of them suggests that there's a way to treat a business like a lion where you sprint and rest. Lions sleep most of the time, right? And I don't think you're sleeping. I don't think I'm sleeping, but most of their time is downtime. And then they have some really intense energy bursts. And people who run shows, that's kind of what life is like. We have stuff where you can plan and sort of go ahead for a while. And then there's really intense times where you kind of work almost around the clock.
Yeah, I think business, like the culture of any business, the culture is really about, energy and vibe. And, people have to love what they do and who they do it with for the majority of their day. And so, especially at a business, like if you think of NAMM as a business, I mean, there's times a year where we are like surging, and it's called January, right? And for a lot of ways in December too. But at other times of the year, there are definitely like areas that we know we have to surge, and you want to level off and just make sure you take some of the pressure off after the surge, so your team, your work family, whatever you call them, has the ability to surge again. You'll burn people out quickly if you surge all the time. So we definitely think about those ups and downs as a team.
Right. Yeah, we're in one of those surges right now ourselves as we're getting ready to go out on the road. We're about to do events all across the U.S. and we'll do, I don't know, about 14 events in a period of 30 days, and that covers a lot of miles because we started up in Chicago and down across the Midwest, all the way down to you guys in San Diego and back out across and up to New York and back to Chicago. I don't know. We do about 55,000 miles a year just in travel. And a lot of people don't know I'm actually a professional driver during that time.
There you go.
It's a lot of miles behind the road and a lot of time to think.
Yeah. It's the best thinking time is windshield time.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even listen to music while I'm driving unless it's late at night.
No, just let your mind, same for me in like running or any kind of exercise, just like let your mind wander freely. And it's a good time to understand where your head's at too, because you can get in the grind and whatever's going on in your head, you can just, work through it. But when you just sort of like let your mind wander, And for me, I'm not like, I can't like sit still and meditate, but I can
Hmm.
go for like a 10-mile run. And by mile three, I just realized I've been thinking about something random for 5 minutes. And just that's the area where you really kind of just listen to your thoughts and see where your brain goes. Does it go to work? Does it go to, something you did last week? Does it go to ahead? Like it's a good inventory of just where your mind wanders when you let it.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, it's a favorite habit of mine. I'm the same way. I just want to provide opportunity for my mind to think about something that maybe I haven't thought about yet, something I need to be more. I don't want to be distracted all the time. Like I know a lot of people, people who are quite close to me. My mother tells stories of my father coming home from work, and he would walk through the door and he would turn on the radio, walk over to the TV, turn on the TV, and then pick up his accordion and start playing. I mean, that is a lot of distraction.
Yeah, just
That is,
constant.
and I've never been in his home where there wasn't the radio or TV, just that constant sort of white noise happening. And that's how do you ever think about something?
I'll tell you my new game. I don't know where I got it from. I might have saw it somewhere. I just decided to do it. I think I just made the decision. It's so easy, especially with the constant news cycle now, which we thought the news couldn't get more intense, and it just keeps getting more intense.
Mhm.
I found myself just doom scrolling far too long, and just getting caught into like the constant like news cycle, which really is I can't even like really enjoy Instagram anymore. Oh, this is what happened because I look at like social media to see what my friends are up to. Like I enjoy as much as I'm like I don't really want to see pictures of your food. I do like the
Mhm.
idea of like, oh, so and so's on vacation. I know about them. You're just keeping up with people that means something. But it just my social feed had become so just polluted with just everything going on, and it just wasn't fun. And so I finally made a decision and said, you know what? Every time I habitually pick up my phone to like doom scroll, I'm
Mhm.
instead going to sit back, scroll through my contacts, and think about a friend that I haven't talked to in a long time, and just send them a "Hey, how are you?" text, and just start
Mm.
engaging and replace doom scrolling with actively engaging with just people. Or like just sit there and say, "Who have I not?" Or just go back to my text messages and doom scroll those and say, "You know what? I haven't texted this person since like June. Hey, buddy, what's up?" And it's been great. Now the hard part is like I have those 3 minutes of free time, so I send a bunch of text out, and then they all reply back when I don't have
That's
time,
right.
and so it's like I can't talk to you right now. But if you get over that, you know, it actually has been such a more healthy way to kind of spend my time.
That's really great. Was that did you pick that up somewhere in a podcast or something, or was that just your own
I
free
think
thought?
it was probably that moment of like I was frustrated with the scrolling of social media, and I was frustrated because like no, I don't want to see all this political stuff. I just want to see my friends. I'm like, oh, I know who my friends are. What if I just reach out to them? Like there was like an aha moment of like out of frustration. It's like, well, wait, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Maybe social media is not the problem. Maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I should change my behavior to get the result I want and not blame, So it's one of those aha moments.
Oh, I love it. I'm going to be thinking about that, and I'm probably going to share it. That's well, I mean, I guess we're going to share it on this podcast, but
Yeah.
but that's a wonderful idea, John. I really, strengthening the relationships, connecting with people. Um, yeah, I'll be thinking about that for a little while.
It's
That's
fun.
wonderful.
And also
Yeah,
board members of NAMM and just industry people.
yeah.
Like I'm so lucky um in my job that um I can reach out to a lot of folks and they reply. And I don't take that for granted for a second. And
Hmm.
I know how busy these folks are, but like I just really enjoy having the ability to reach out to the CEO of a company or industry and say, "Hey, how's business? How are things?" And they'll either, send me some notes, write me a paragraph. Oh, let's jump on a quick call next week. It's just,
Hmm.
that's really good just to get a sense of, where we are.
I'm really glad to hear that because that's been my experience with NAM as an organization. But that is not NAM's reputation from the person who only comes to the show and deals with setup and teardown and the show. They don't, for whatever reason, they have this because they associate it with all the stress
Hmm.
of getting to the show and setting it up and tearing it down. But when I first started working with NAMM, it's because a couple of the people from NAMM reached out to me and said, we've noticed that there's all of these artisan guitar makers around the world who aren't coming to the show, and we're actually mandated to take care of the industry. And so when we notice that we're not doing as good of a job as we think we could be doing, we're obliged to take action. And I just don't think a lot of people know that. I don't think a lot of people know that NAMM is literally like mandated to care, to care for the industry and to make sure they're taking care of those things. And so my experience with the people that I work with at the show have been exactly that. And so when someone complains to me about the show, I quickly try and dismantle it and let them know about my experience. And not, I still listen to the problems, but to sort of say, this is, NAMM is not out there to get your money. NAMM is not this soulless organization who cranks out this show once a year. You've got this all wrong.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what NAMM is doing all year round and the reason that we do this show all together. And often they're really pleasantly surprised to hear like, oh, they brought you in to take care of us. Yeah. So the fact that do you feel that I'm cold with you? No, not at all. You guys take care of us. Yeah. Okay. Me taking care of you is NAMM taking care of you. They brought me in as a subject matter expert in the beginning to help in this area. And that's part of it, but it's a big complicated thing. And so you've been spending all this time. I see that you're traveling lots. And I hear that you're traveling lots from the other people that I'm with. And, I have some assumptions about why you're doing that, but what is your life like outside of the days of the NAMM show?
Yeah.
What is going on?
You're first of all really spot on that, what we do year round is, we're a mission-driven organization. Our mission is to strengthen the music products industry and promote the pleasures and benefits of making music. So, we think about NAMM now as the NAMM Show, member services. We're a membership association, so we want to serve our members throughout the year. And of course, the NAMM Foundation is a key piece of NAMM, and that's where you start to get the promoting pleasures and benefits and giving back. And more recently, like within the past couple of weeks, as we get into our strategic planning, we're really getting into this idea of like, well, the NAMM Show and member services and foundation, those are business units or P&Ls or departments, but actually what it really comes down to is, what does NAMM do? We gather the industry, we serve our members, and we grow the industry. And so we've kind of started thinking in those lines, and that manifests itself as a NAMM show. But we also gather through the NAMM Fly-In, the Women of NAMM Summit, our NAMM Next events, and in a lot of ways, some of the coalitions we build and the virtual webinars and partners we bring together, some of the virtual events that are specifically about bringing people together to solve a problem, like a tariff working group, that's gathering the industry around a common need. And so we kind of said, we do a lot of that. And one of them is really huge at Anaheim, but there's more areas we gather. And then obviously serving the members, there's a lot of things we've been thinking about member benefits and what that looks like. So back to my travel, a lot of my travel is, I try to mix, like we in this building and this amazing NAMM team, we're always on the phone talking to as many members as we can, but, we can't call 70,000 people or, hundreds of thousands and really think about the depth of employees of the companies we reach. So a lot of it is, let's get out there and let's go visit them and let's learn. So traveling for me is usually strategic. I'd say over half of my travel is not pre-planned. It really comes down to like live touring. I'll give you an example. Live touring is surging this summer. That part with tariffs and everything affecting other parts of the industry, live touring is still surging in a big way. But I'm hearing a lot about like, who is the buyer in live touring? Like we know the manufacturers who are making the products, we're seeing growth there. What do we know about the Backline community? What do we know about the professional audio and live event rental company that's serving that connection between the manufacturers and the customer? And that's a key piece of the industry. So, let's look at our CRM. Like so let's go feel these companies out. So I went to Nashville and I spent 3 days visiting all these various companies and just touring and seeing what does a company do in the middle of the summer prepping for all the big shows to come out, and what's that career skill, and how does that feed into NAMM's careers in music, and how does that feed into the need of that company, and what do they need from NAMM as a NAMM member company that might not be like merchandising a thing in a store to sell, but bringing in a thing off a truck, QAing it, making sure it still works, repairing as needed, and prepping it and getting it out on the next tour effectively and servicing and being there. So a lot of this come from like, we need to understand a segment of our industry better. Let's hit the road and get out there. And I do a lot of like writing reports and findings, and sometimes I'll do like, all staff updates. Here's what we learned. And they really appreciate, visits from me. And I think it means a lot to show that like we're thinking about these companies. Because like you said, for us, you had a good example about how someone might think, oh, the NAMM show, it's that thing I have to go to once a year that I have to do all this setup and it's super expensive or whatever. But for us, it's a similar where we look at our companies and I mean, my view is the executive in a suit in the booth doing meetings. Or our staff might be, the production team at that company that's in charge of setting up the trade show and logistics. That's the side of our member companies we see at the trade show. What we don't see is their factories where they make instruments every single day, their meeting rooms where they make strategic decisions. And so going and seeing that side of the business makes us realize, wow, this little, booth that's built in a couple days and tore down in a day, that's not the business. Like, we need to understand the business. And so it's super, super helpful.
Yeah. Thinking about the whole backline part of it, even many of the MI stores that we go to, the musical instrument stores, many of them survive their business through the ups and downs because they have a consistent backline part of their business. They're the person who has this warehouse down the road with people who are pulling PAs and doing stages and doing the festivals in the area, doing the events in the area. And honestly, if you didn't have a conversation with someone, you would have no idea that was owned by the local music store. You just don't see it. You don't go to see the PA and the stage. You go to see the act, right? And when you go to the store, they don't put that stuff on display. It's really interesting that I'm thinking about a store in Pennsylvania right now, Northeast Music Center. It's one of our tour stops, and they do a great event, but they look like your normal music store. I know they have a warehouse or two somewhere else with someone else who's running that part of it, but it's owned by the music store, and that part grew out of it. I remember going to Nashville. You just talked about Nashville and Fork's Drum Closet there and Gary Forkham. The store is a great world-class drum shop, and you walk through the store and it's a great drum shop. What you don't realize is there are 3 or 4 full warehouses in Nashville with backline drum sets and trucks and stuff moving around that are owned by Fork's Drum Closet. And that's really interesting that you've dialed in on that, because you're bringing to mind all of these businesses that I can think of that exactly have so much going on. Even myself, my public face is as the curator of the Boutique Guitar Showcase. And the people who have worked with me for years, I recently spent some time with a few of them who asked me some questions as we're together, and they had no idea all of the other stuff I do as a consultant, as an agent. All the time I spend developing programs or doing executive advisory work or creating concepts for other people, they actually didn't know. They don't even ask, because there's a public face, and then you make all the assumptions that public face is the thing. And so in the stores, it's the product they put out front. In my business, it's the podcast and the events that they see. In NAMM, it's the NAMM Show. But there's so much more going on there. That's fascinating. I remember even as a musician, John, I'm a multi-instrumentalist, and I've played lots of gigs and toured on different instruments. And I realized at one point in time that people think of me as a drummer or a guitar player or a bass player or as a vocalist, depending on their first interaction with me.
Right.
Whether they met me behind a drum set, and then later on, if they see me playing a guitar, it's, oh, that's a drummer playing guitar. Or if they met me as a guitarist and they see me playing drums, oh, that's a guitarist who's playing drums. It's fascinating how we associate like that.
Yeah. I think
So what are...
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, so what are some of the things that you think people would be surprised to know about that you spend your time doing, or that NAMM spends their time doing, that are not that public face? You know, it's like me walking into Fork's drum closet warehouse going, holy crap, there's a huge warehouse of other stuff going on here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, one thing definitely comes to mind. I mean, Association 101 is, why do you need an association for any industry? And, it's sort of a bi-directional reason of, one, the industry needs a voice. Someone needs to speak, not on behalf of my business is affected by something, but an entire industry. Like, somebody has to speak on behalf of the whole industry when it comes to various, policy initiatives. And then the other is someone, it really helps if the association does the research and the legwork on something and gives that information to the industry. So not 4,000 companies have to figure out the same problem that we can put our team on. And so the example du jour, let's talk, tariffs. That's a perfect example. So what is how does our industry respond to tariffs? What is the voice of our industry? I mean, in general, our industry is affected. We're, obviously we're an industry, and you can look at the import data. We're highly dependent on China, and we're highly dependent on manufacturing overseas, especially on the lower end. I mean, we're an industry in general that people want the best quality for the lowest price at that early stage in their musical journey. And it could be a student, it could be an adult, whoever, but no one really goes out and buys a very high-end boutique guitar just to see if they like playing guitar. I hope they do, and you should buy high-end. But, the thing is people,
every once in a while, but it's not normal. It does happen, but it's not normal.
But so people want to start somewhere. So there's always that, we're an industry that's always looking for a supply chain that offers the best quality at the best price. And that's why we, you look at our import data. But so, the tariff thing is interesting because on one hand, we're doing a lot to speak on behalf of our industry, especially when there's multiple industries coming together. It also it's really important for our leaders, whether it's elected officials in the federal level or state level, or just our leaders at other associations. I don't think the automakers sit around and be like, I wonder what the music instrument association's doing to this. But at the same time, a lot of, music and music's effect on life and music's effect on people is massive. So we should be at the big boy table in a lot of ways. Quite frankly, we should be at the big kid table when it comes to that. So you look at the distilled spirits and auto manufacturers and home construction, these industries that are affected by lumber tariffs, or affected by tariffs in Canada, or affected by, steel and aluminum and all these other, particular countries. But, we put NAMM in those conversations. We are aligning with various associations and reaching out to partners at the National Retail Federation, or reaching out to partners at Consumer Technology Association, and reaching out to partners at all these other associations. Sometimes I've just cold emailed CEOs of other associations and said, hey, what is your stance on this? Why don't 6 associations sign this letter? Because maybe Secretary Lutnick would pay more attention if it was from multiple associations at XXXX billions of dollars of GDP, instead of hey, the violin makers aren't happy about this. So we think a lot about how we have that voice. We're trying as much as we can to say, we're doing this, but at the same time, when it gets into policy work as an association, we have a responsibility. Like you said, we have this duty to you said mandate to serve our industry. As an association, I feel a strong duty to be the voice of our industry in all conversations. And so we have been nonstop in that. At the same time, it takes a lot of digging through all the pieces of tariffs. Okay, there's 10% IEEPA for fentanyl, but there's 20% for this, but there's still 20 to 25% from 2018. But then there's a Section 232 on steel. What is the tariff on any particular country? So we've been tracking that and updating constantly for NAMM members because our goal is NAMM members can spend more time strategizing about their business and less time
Mm-hmm.
trying to sort everything out because they could come to our article, come to our trade working group and get like, here's the latest information. We've sliced and diced below the doom and gloom headlines and given you, when de minimis is actually ending and when to expect this and when IEPA is going to court and when just all this information we're updating regularly. So that's that idea of like that example of like giving to our industry, but also being the voice of our industry.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of tariffs, back to like what do we do that people are surprised? It's tariffs are rapidly evolving and there's really no exceptions or exemptions being granted for any industry right now. But there's a lot of policy work NAMM does, and we're always monitoring different legislation, both at state and local and federal level, and international policies, whether it's trade of endangered woods, et cetera. We're at the table. Any place that our industry needs to be at the table, I'm confident that NAMM's at the table. And a lot of policy work is if we do our job as an association, our members never know the problem exists because we can just voice up and say, hey, hold on a second, this is going to mess up this. And so we just make sure people think about the effect on musical products. And a lot of that's like, there's a lot of problems our industry never hears about because we've done our job. And so when I
Mm-hmm.
get really get in I could talk for days about this. I won't, but you get in the weeds of some of like the really minor, like what feels like a small nuanced thing that we get into, but the
Mm-hmm.
impacts on like global trade. That's the work that we enjoy. And if anything, like I know this is a selfish plea, but like I promise every NAMM member that your member dues are absolutely going to work for our industry. Like there's no doubt in my mind that like that's the work that we do to sustain our businesses.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It sounds like a lot of work, John, and it sounds like a lot of not so fun work. All
It's funny. It kind of is fun. I'll tell you what, it's a lot of work, but you know what? Like I actually light up when I talk about it. It's fun to be able to do work because a lot of companies, I think this is where the reason the work is fun. And look, yes, it's legal, it's political, it's coalition building, it's coalition politics. I mean, it is not easy on a number of fronts. But there's certain people, we have amazing people in this building, and we have lobbyists that we work with that are wired to do it and love it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really important, finding the people who love this type of like work. But it also, at times like this, when it's like, hey, what am I paying to import a product? Or what am I paying for the materials I'm using to build products? And how does this affect our industry? And what do we think the economy is going to do? And are we going to see a recession? No. When times of uncertainty, the fact that we as an association like can do something, can provide information, can pull in economists, can pull in global trade experts and like record information and get it back to our members, it's
Mm-hmm.
nice to be able to help in some way. And I think that's what
Mm-hmm.
makes the work fun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been thinking a lot on communicating to certain people groups and how they receive information, how they process information as well. Um, and we started this conversation a little bit with the social media feeds and what you're seeing and such, and that can be overwhelming times for people. And what I'm finding, and I hope you don't mind getting a little bit political. I'm not going to take actual political stances, but I'm going to make comments that will be taken as political. That what I'm finding is if somebody is liberal leaning in direction, if they would identify themselves as a liberal person, they're at their wits' end. They are often telling me like I'm anxious. I'm done. I don't know what to do. They're looking to leave the country. They're looking to go to other places. Like they're overwhelmed and anxious. They're taking sick leave. Like I know university professors that are taking sick leave, intelligent people. And for whatever it is, they can't reconcile right now with what's happening. And the people who are more conservative in their nature, they're not as overwhelmed right now. And I've been thinking about what exactly that means. If we talk about sort of the conservative nature, I mean, we're literally talking about trying to conserve what matters to you, what you consider to be the foundational things, the culture, family, whatever it happens to be, the things that you would identify as this is this people group, this is our culture, we're going to try and keep it safe. That's the conserving part. And the liberal function is to release the unnecessary things that maybe hold us in the wrong place sometimes. 100 years ago, we were literally having open debate about whether people of different skin colors should share sidewalks and water fountains. I'm glad we don't think that way anymore. Like, that's insane to all of us now. And so that is the liberal function, to free us from these ideas that sort of come along as we evolve. But I'm concerned that much of the liberal theory has left people untethered with sort of the death of God, if you will. And I'm not a religious person, but if you don't have a particular foundational set and you sort of moved either from what is known towards chaos, and I think there's a bunch of people just sort of outwardly having left what has been known, seeing as tradition completely, and they're just floating towards chaos and they're overwhelmed and anxious. And so if you can accept that as a plausible theory for a moment, then what my goal is in conversing with someone is to bring them some sense of the known. And the human mind, the part that regulates anxiety, the opposite of anxiety, is curiosity and exploration. And okay, we're artists. This is our zone.
Yeah.
Curiosity and exploration. Let's get in there.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's make this happen. And so once I identify that I have one of these anxious people that are untethered and floating off towards chaos and the ether, I do my best to try and be curious with them and explore towards. Because when you explore these ideas, it's that whole sort of thing that we would say to a person who's anxious, what's the worst that could happen? And what you're doing there is you're saying, let's explore this. Let's be curious about this for a second. Let's walk down this path. And what you usually find is, okay, I can handle that. But they've frozen. They're gripped in fear, and they're not thinking it through. You realize, okay, most things actually I can handle it, and I can do something about it. And that gives them agency. And agency and competence brings back that confidence, and you lose that anxiety. And so we spend our time thinking about what are the things that we can do. When war breaks out and you feel helpless, well, what you can do. I had a conversation. I invited some Israeli guitar makers onto my podcast to just talk. We're not talk so much about the war, but we just talked. And I had an Iranian, a Persian guitar player who's fantastic. His parents were political refugees, and we just talked. And we just showed the humanity of the different people around the world and said, okay, I may not be able to just change the world, but I can have a conversation. I can do something. And that's that agency. And that agency is what pulls us away from that anxiety and untethered chaos.
As you were going through that, and you finally said to me, which is the magic word here, is the feeling of helplessness. Because,
Yeah.
I love you use tethered, because I am a sailor and I have tethered myself to a boat before at night to make sure that I feel more secure and safe.
Yeah.
So I literally have two different tethers. But there's also you back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We as humans, safety, security, shelter, food, it's really hard to be creative and anything else when you just don't feel safe and secure. So there's that piece, back to the political side. I could imagine a world at which if we had a Democratic controlled House, Senate, and presidency, and a Democratic, majority Supreme Court, though I know justices are not politically affiliated, but let's say we had a Democratic leaning Supreme Court, all, that area, would the Republican side feel as helpless, as untethered as the Democratic side? And I would argue probably, because that's that feeling of helplessness, right? My vote, my ideals, it's this other side, whatever it is, has, is making all the decisions, and I don't have a voice or I don't have a chance. And so that feeling of helplessness, I think, is where people get rather untethered in that area. Mm-hmm. And I think you're you're right in a lot of ways that you sort of feel that. And it's hard to make decisions when you don't feel like you have a choice. And I love your idea about like creativity, because maybe there's like through creativity, through music or through some outlet, it's not as much like people just need to like be heard and need to
Mm-hmm.
feel like they have some sense of control of their life or their destiny or their own beliefs, or can get to a place where like they could live the life they believe with around people with ideals that they believe in too. So I think the helplessness, there has to be some scientific ratio that somebody much smarter than me can measure of like a helpless factor to a like amount of like anxious and
Mm-hmm.
untethered factor. They have to be correlated in some way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They are. If we look at the sort of big five personality sort of groupings and such, there's function for this. So I don't want to give the impression that I think that one is wrong. Within a democracy, we need a tension between sort of this conservative function, the liberal function. That's what moves us ahead. And I think we may have discussed this before. Hegel observed it as the thesis generating its own antithesis, and that together they generate a synthesis. It's sort of two steps forward, one step back. And that synthesis becomes the new norm. That's why we're not debating the same political issues we debated 100 years ago. We've moved on from that. We do actually have a forward momentum, even though sometimes it feels like it's going backwards, because it did. We literally pulled back the liberal function and we made a synthesis. We made a compromise. But some of those ideas were very good ideas and they get adopted into the culture. And guess what? The conservatives' job is literally to conserve those new ideas into the culture. Right? And musically speaking, we do this through associations. We're at here, I'm going to make another scary statement here for a second, but we're at the end of a major movement. We're at the end of the rock and roll era, just by virtue of the fact that our bodies only live so long. And and that was a major sort of burst within our industry. It sold a lot of guitars and a lot of drum sets and PAs and such. And we're at the end of that particular era because it's based on our bodies to a certain extent. It doesn't mean that it will be finished. We will conserve a portion of that, and societies will be built up around that. And just like we have a folk society and a classical music society, and we have a blues society, soon we're going to have a rock and maybe even a heavy metal society. And, there's going to be parents saying to their other friends, like, your kid doesn't know how to play Shook Me All Night Long. They've never even heard it. What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
And there'll be people raising money to make sure kids know how to play heavy metal. It sounds absurd, but the idea that we have folk societies and blues societies would have sounded absurd to other people as well at one point in time,
Yeah.
and we will have that, and the things worth conserving will get conserved within our culture. And there's a very strong industry based around music, which is centuries old in the classical music era. I mean, something like 95 or 99% of all music played in symphony orchestras are by 3 or 4 composers, all of which have been dead for centuries at this point. And so when I proclaim that the closing of the rock and roll era is upon us, it doesn't mean the industry is doomed. It just means it's a different era, that we move into a period of reenactment and cosplay and conservation of that while new things are generated, because there are new things being generated. Hip hop isn't closing in this moment because it came after rock and roll.
Do you believe that, the influence of generative AI and just the influence of technology? I mean, it's not just an AI thing, but obviously there's been a massive influence of technology on the creative process. I mean, there was a time where you had to like wire up a lot of stuff. The drag and drop plugin was just, also like like I just have to go like this. I don't have to know what a bus is. What I could just press this on and and then presets and all this.
What about the $800 I spent in those damn splitter cables?
Exactly, and all this stuff. And like, wait, what's this? Yeah. Like, is it a send and insert? Do I insert it? Do I send it? Do I send it back? It's just so there. So AI is another fact, but as technology allows the creative process to go faster, that's how I've summed it up. Like the creative process can move faster. If I want to say, "Oh, I want to try this song with a bossa nova beat," but with a little bit of didgeridoo. Just throwing it out there. See what that sounds like. That'd be great.
No, bossery do. I love it.
A bossery do. I love it.
Bossery do.
But now I could just I'd like to hear you could just get a rough idea of what this sounds like in seconds. So now this creative process can happen faster. So back to these eras, because NAMM's turning 125 next year, which is very exciting. And we're doing a lot. We're putting together a big industry timeline, and the show, you'll see a lot of this this historical area. So forgive me because my head's really wrapped into all the trends and historical moments of our industry because we've been kind of deep in researching it. But they happened across decades. And now, you look back in the rise of electronic, the drum machine happened across 3 years. It was everything, then it was nothing. Bam, bam, gone, or some other areas of innovation that came up and lasted. But
Cedar Creek Custom Case Shop is your premier fretted instrument custom case maker, and we invite you to create a musical instrument case unlike any other, one that's unique to you. Every Cedar Creek custom case is hand-built by highly skilled craftspeople using only select woods, Providence Forge hardware, and premium instrument-friendly materials. At Cedar Creek Custom Case Shop, we are dedicated to helping you design the case of your dreams. Find out more at cedarcreekcases.com.
What happens now with the speed at which creativity is happening, the speed at which technology can allow humans to create? Do these eras happen faster? Do they start oscillating quicker? Because, they also kind of come back. So do the oscillations get closer? Do we go from AM oscillations to FM oscillations? How does that look like,
Yeah. You want me to respond to that?
I would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Okay. First of all, most major movements that have happened, or most movements sort of go between this idea of a futurist sort of approach to a golden years approach, sort of moving towards the future, or let's make America great again, right? That's sort of my better days were in my high school. The things were better back when I had a carburetor and knew how to fix it with a pencil, and now I don't know how to fix my car because it's a computer, not a car, right? Those types of feelings, those all happen in roughly 11-year cycles. The CD was 11 years, MTV was 11 years. We move in these cycles by 11 years. And I don't know if it's going to maintain that. But now here's where I get really crazy. Those are solar cycles, and the animals move in the same cycles. So
the locust, I was going to say, that's the locust cycle. That's the Nashville locust.
Yeah.
Or cicadas or whatever.
Rabbits peak in 11 years, and then the year afterwards, fox peaks because they had a lot of food the previous year. And so we're not all on the same 11-year cycle. However, there's a lot of evidence to believe that we do actually move through those cycles. And so it's something I've been working on for a while. And so there is technology, but there's still the human approach to technology and why we are asking particular questions and how we respond to those questions, because it's always a cycle. So development is the same thing as playing a musical instrument. There's the impetus. We choose to blow into that horn, strike the string, hit it with a stick, whatever we're going to do. And it's sort of the cause, and then there's a reaction. And then with that reaction, we listen to it and we choose how to make our response. It's conversation, right? So it's start the energy, listen to the energy, respond to the energy, make your next movement, right? And so it's this constant sort of loop. And technology is not independent completely of humanity or of this world. And so we will, and of course there's the big scary question of, well, what happens when we do actually reach a super intelligence where maybe it is independent of us, but it's still happening within a world which has been vastly shaped by humanity.
Right, technology is still a tool that humans use.
Well, yes, but the big scary question is, will that tool start using us? And that's what the Matrix is all about, The Terminator. Yes, there were a lot of movies made about this that predicted this a long time ago. Yeah. And so, but let's just sort of bring it to the creative side of things. One, I think it's inevitable. I don't think that we can avoid it or that we should avoid it. And to me, I have more possibilities. As I told you already, I'm already a multi-instrumentalist. I've never seen myself as a guitar player or as a drummer. I'm someone who's making music. And do I wish I had my 8-track recorder or 4-track recorder instead of the plug-in in my laptop? Hell no. No, I do not wish I still had that, which was vastly limited by how much money I had. Incredibly limited. Those old demos I made on that cassette tape were very dry because I didn't know how to make effects in there, and I didn't know how to balance them out. I didn't have good recording equipment. I had that way to record it, but I didn't have a good microphone at the time. I had one mic to do everything with, not necessarily the right mic. And so, my possibility for expression is greatly uninhibited because of what has been created through technology. And it is more and more in my control, and therefore I have more possibilities. And so I think that technology means we're still going to shape our output by your capacity to think and create. That's still a human aspect. Will there be auto-generated things? Sure. There already are. But honestly, I can hear them right away. Spotify keeps slipping them into my mix. I'm like, what the hell? What is this shit? I go on, how did this end up in 50s crooner mix? Like this, this has nothing to do with this, right? And hide this song. And of course, it will get better because of it. But, for us to hear would you say a bossa nova didgeridoo?
You said a bosseridoo? Is that what you said?
A bosseridoo, yeah. That's an archaic and unusual thought, which I think is a humane thought. And so, I think that, yes, of course, a lot is going to change. But there's still the interface level. And so I've come to think more and more about musical instruments as mechanical interfaces. And so there is the stringed interface, the stringed fretted interface, sort of the bowed one, the fretted interface. Mm-hmm. There's the keyed interface with the woodwinds, and there's a percussive key, being the reason the piano is actually in the percussion family, is that type of black and white keys, tones, semitones in a visual pattern in this way. Those are all interfaces, and that interface has lasted centuries and has so far not been scrapped by our new technology. And it's a way for our physical body to be extended and to interact with the technologies. And so for whatever reason, we don't want to give up those mechanical interfaces.
You talk about physical bodies and reaction. You can talk about like evolution in biology, and you think about, like, as you're talking, I'm thinking about the speed at which things happen and how our bodies catch up to it. And you look at the long, now we're talking millenniums of time where humans, much less many animals, have just evolved to the needs of the time. And a lot of, you can think about our diets, and like, look at some of the health problems that we're now pointing back to, saying, hey, processed foods, things that are not natural for our body, are causing all of these health problems. We're like, conceptually, like, well, of course, body has what to do with them. Now, 500 years from now, maybe we evolve for that. And I don't know, but I think there was always that rumor of like, hey, we're developing a special muscle in our right foot because of driving cars. And it's going to take multiple generations for that to actually start to manifest itself. So the speed at which humans are expected to create now, because of technology, we can move a lot faster. And, back to like stress levels or just some of the mental health that we see, that's a really, really important topic right now, especially in live touring and just getting it just in the studio. And in general, just, I think, is there some biology where like the human biology and evolution takes decades or centuries for us to adjust to where the expectations of the pace and the output that technology is evolving is happening in years now, and there's some gap at which, and maybe that gap is the untethered piece.
I mean, we'll continue to evolve. The We have a tendency in the modern world to look at things as if every problem can and should be solved, while at the same time talking about evolution, which is by its essence the survival of the fittest. And someone can come across as cold and unempathetic in this scenario, but I don't think that we're meant not to struggle. And I think that we're supposed to learn in the struggle, and that a lot of our anxiety comes from people giving in to the problem as opposed to saying, I got to stand up and do something about it.
Yep.
So I recognize the problem, but I'm going to focus on the solution. And so what am I going to do now? And that part hasn't changed. And so there's going to always be the problems. I think we need to become much more of an empowered solutions culture and say, you are the product of millions of years of evolution. Your genes have gotten you through a lot of crazy stuff to this point in time. You have the capacity to figure this out and get through it. Now let's figure it out and get through it.
And we're just a blip in time of millions of more years of evolution. So
well, hopefully, but not if we don't reproduce. We have an incredibly low reproduction rate at this point in time, and it took us millions of years to get to this point in time. And after millions of years of your genes successfully passing themselves on, for you to decide, I don't feel like it, is actually probably a pretty crazy choice. But that's a very unpopular thing to say out loud.
Well, and are you? So, what are your? I got to know. Is the interstellar object that will be as close to us as possible in November? Is it actually some comet, or is it actually made by other forces?
I don't know. I haven't heard about this. It's my first time. Tell me about it.
Is it the third ever, I think, interstellar object it's moving fast enough to go between galaxies, which is, it's only the third object I think we've ever recorded that can actually move, comes from outside our galaxy, because it has to move at a speed that would actually pass through the distance. And so there is an object, and it's like the size of Manhattan. It's like 10 miles long. It's supposed to be huge. And a Harvard professor just kind of raised the flag and kind of said, I forgot what the headline was. It was like, there's a 0.05% chance this thing is natural. Like, basically, like, this has to be alien advanced nuclear powered alien machinery that could even create something this big. And I don't know what's truth online anyway. So like, I went down a rabbit hole of it because I just love space. I love researching and reading what could possibly be a black hole, and like just some of the unknown things, and like just looking at what just the various James Webb's picking up, and some of the various like I love space. I just reading that. But I went down I went down a black hole
yes
of this object, and just the thoughts, and it's emitting X-rays, but it's emitting like at a certain like very predictable rate. And so like a pulsar will do that, but there's never been a pulsar that moves this fast. So it could be some like piece of debris that's never been recorded. There's all sorts of theories out there, but it's just fascinating. Anyway, I've been going down that rabbit hole.
All right. Well, it's my first time hearing it, but I will tell you, to tie this back into music, 2 years ago, I was in Klingenthal, which is, I'm going to have a hard time saying it. Even Germans have a hard time saying this one. It's in Markneukirchen,
I've been to Markneukirchen.
I'm sure you have. Yeah, because it's a center of musical production. Mm-hmm. It's where Christian Martin comes from. It's where the violin industry and the accordion industry, the mouth harmonica, all of these things one of the biggest centers of musical instrument production a few hundred years ago, and still produces. And so I teach at a school there every year or so. And so I was there, and we had just driven in from Poland, and we got to the hotel late, and we're in Germany. And so Zach, who works with me and is my son, actually, we were at the hotel. We got out on the patio, and we're having a good German beer, because that's what you do when you get to Germany. And looking up at the sky, and there was this thing that was shimmering in a way it shouldn't be shimmering. Like, what the heck is going on? It looked like it was moving in a sporadic sort of movement across. And it was this very large ice asteroid, which had only been sort of identified a week or two beforehand,
Oh,
and it was
wow.
coming very close. And we just happened to be looking up at the sky at the right time, and happened to be out in the mountains in the countryside where there was no light pollution, and it was a wonderful moment. There's so much out there that we don't understand, and that should cause us to engage in that wonder and that curiosity, and then we should write a song about it, or a poem, or a movie.
Create art. Yeah. Just create art, create music. Yeah. No, I love that. I think there's a lot of that. There's back to the idea of like the unknown inspires creativity.
This space is normally reserved for brands who make stories like this possible, like the Dario and the Cedar Creek Custom Case Shop. If your company belongs in this conversation, let's talk. We partner with brands who value craft, culture, and the quiet power of a well-placed idea. Yeah. And so, but we are people who do things. John, I get out there and I do things. I don't feel a victim of the world.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm helpless, and you certainly aren't. You know, you're shaping the world that you live in as well. And so, what are some of the things that you're excited about right now that you're working on?
Yeah. One of the most exciting thing, I'm glad you brought it up because we're not sure when this airs, but I'm pretty sure by the time this episode airs, this will already be out. Um, One thing we've been working on at NAMM for a while now, and conceptually and philosophically, is in getting it right there, and then the actual technology piece is, coming out now, is this idea of how can we reach every employee of every company, reimagining what a NAMM member is. Because, back then I've been, there's different ways to talk about this. One is counting brains, not bricks. Instead of thinking about our members as an a, a store on Main Street, USA, and that's a one.
Mm-hmm.
There are 112 people that work for this company. Those are the people that, and not all of them get to go to the NAMM show, but they might
Mm-hmm.
all benefit from knowledge sharing, mentorship, programs, research, data, webinars, all the things we do, policy work, engagement. There's a lot of that in their daily lives and in the business. So rethinking about our industry as hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people who go to quote work every day and support musical products, manufacturers, selling, distributing, repairing, teaching, all of that stuff. So we're launching we conceptualize it as NAMM's member portal, but of course, not everyone who attends the trade show is a NAMM member, and that's fine. Like, we want artists, we want media, we want all those other folks, but the new NAMM.org dashboards give us a awesome insight into every person, every individual that we interact with as an organization. And for a long time, because we're 125 years old, so we were started as a association of businesses, so we counted a business as one. Hey, Guitar Center, you're one. Okay, but that's like hundreds and hundreds of local stores and 20,000 employees and stuff. So we want to branch out to see people. So we're launching this. Everyone at NAMM, everyone who interacts with our business will now start with a profile on NAMM.org. And this is the new, the technology is one piece, but it's really to allow us to like understand every human we interact with. So before, we had like every other business, you have lots of systems, and you have a trade show system, and you have membership system, and you have foundation. But we had lots of systems. People would go register over here. They might log in over here. They might pay their bills over here. And we just said, we need to consolidate our technology for the purpose of like understanding our industry holistically, not as 8,600 storefronts that might be members, but 450 plus thousand people when we start counting our member count. So everyone who interacts with us, whether it's a trade show registration, a member, anything, they will do it through their profile on NAMM.org. And we have a centralized dashboard. Log into NAMM.org. You'll be taken to a centralized dashboard, and you can see your information, your company. If you're a member company, you can immediately add as many of and we encourage all of your employees to your to your company on NAMM.org. That means that every employee of your company will immediately be able to access NAMM.org and receive any benefit that you get as a company member. And for a lot of times, we had this idea of authorized contact, and one person had to go download the benefits. Dating back to the 50s, when a member had a single voting representative who flew in or trained in or drove into Chicago for a big meeting and cast the one vote on behalf of the company, like we still had some of that lingering in how we did business today. But today we should be about hundreds of thousands of people. So NAMM's new like centralized dashboard allows member companies and everyone to have a profile, but member companies can like add every employee they have. And those employees can immediately say, oh, I want to be involved in NAMM Young Professionals, or I want to be a mentor for NAMM Group. I want to be involved in Women in NAMM, or I want to access this webinar. I want to download this research. But all of those things that we offered can be accessible to hundreds of thousands of people. And that centralized portal not only allows access to more people, allows us to now start understanding our industry and growing our database, but also understand what people of different profiles are doing and how we can better serve them. Because we live in a very AI driven, easy to crunch a lot of large data and understand and predict behaviors. So I will be absolutely happy to admit that when a profile of I'll make it up, a mid-level marketing coordinator at a retail company, what do they do and access, and who do they engage with on all the services NAMM's offers? And how does that drive what we do for marketing professionals everywhere? And you can take the same example and you can talk about luthiers, you can talk about boutique guitar makers, you can talk about large manufacturers or distributors. We will now be able to understand who this individual is, what categories they fall into the industry, whether it's fretted, percussion, band and orchestra, bowed strings, et cetera, but also what's their role. And then all of that data, we will have complete insight into what benefits are we providing that person? Why do they need their association? We could survey them. We can track what they're using, what they're not using. We can understand what they click on, what they don't click on. So we understand what benefits are being utilized and which ones we need more of. We can decide if we want to launch more features like Career Center, Member Directory, networking groups, all these other things that we have on our roadmap to engage members. We're marrying all of this with a lot of cool technology at the NAMM Show. So we have so we're launching NAMM Show 26 with brand new NAMM.org dashboards, member portal for access and adding your employees and creating your company profiles and connecting all your employees to your company. Brand new map, brand new app, brand new registration portal. And yes, we're doing it all new because every system needed to be upgraded. And if you do one and you have one old one, it's back to the old weakest link in the chain, So we're there. We're in the last 2 weeks of testing everything. But the future we're building is for decades. The future is there's a world at which you have a profile at NAMM.org, you register for the NAMM Show, and then you go on the map and you search for a particular exhibitor, you go to some education sessions, you attend some networking. Every interaction you have on that app, we know what you did at the NAMM Show. And so when people, and we can say, what should we program more of? What should we program less of? Where do we need bigger rooms? Where do we need smaller rooms? Where are we running out of space? What do our people want? We actually know, and we can make data-informed decisions. We can provide that as a benefit to companies. If you're exhibiting, like, who are these people coming to my booth? Anyone who clicked your booth to find you on the map, people can choose if they want their info shared. I mean, that's always your data privacy right. But we also can say, hey, you had 22% of people who searched you on the app were podcasters. Wow, I had no idea that many podcasters came to my booth. Maybe I should think about the way I exhibit next year and have something where podcasters would be more welcomed and create content in my booth. I didn't know that many podcasters were showing up. So the examples are endless. So all of this is launching. NAMM as an organization will be able to understand the hundreds of thousands of individuals that work at companies and or come to our show, provide member benefits, instant data. I am so excited about it because it's been years conceptualizing and a year of just technology building, and it's all coming together. And believe it or not, we're like maybe one day behind schedule, but you throw something like this up a year in advance and you're hitting your target within like, oh, we thought we released something tomorrow, but it's going to release Thursday. That's a win.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can see why you're excited. The big buy-in, though, is how do you get people onto the platform? Why do they want to do it?
Yeah. So it's member benefits. No, it's 100%. I mean, well, first of all, like it's NAMM Show registration is gets everyone on, but it's also more secure too. Because one thing is like the data that people give us stays with us. The data that goes on your badge is only what the third party registration vendor gets. So you live in a world at which data privacy, I think we have an obligation to say we're gonna like secure all your information. And so that's one piece. So everyone who registers for the NAMM Show will go through our portal first. And that's an exciting area for us too, just to understand who these folks are as a person, because we don't always know that. We know they're a yellow badge. But as far as getting this idea of one of our KPIs for our strategic year is employees per company engaging with our services. And now we can measure that. So this manifests as we have to put out a lot of benefits that are going to make someone working in the industry say, oh, maybe go to NAMM's portal and see if they have anything for you. And so we already have a lot of global report, different industry insights reports that we gather, data. We do different webinars. We have just things like oral history and research and other industry historical documents. So we sort of this year our strategic plan is to put out sort of content testers in different areas, webinars that would be beneficial for a employee and focus them on, like we do the NAMM Show, whether it's marketing or financial or sales, etc. Industry data research that would help me inform business decisions, maybe with that leader level. All the historical information we have on the industry, looking at trends, analysis there. And then policy information, what policy areas. So we look at all the different benefits area and we'll see where people are gravitating to, and we'll give them the ability to tell us what they want more of.
Well, it sounds like you have your work cut out for you.
Oh, this is a 3-year, and 3 years to start. This is a long time. People, because I don't think people think about like, oh, I wonder if NAMM has something that will help me or my employees be successful in our daily business. And the NAMM Show is all of that. It's everywhere. That's all we think about at the NAMM Show. Like, and I would say, and I would brag on the staff of NAMM, I think the NAMM staff is absolutely outstanding at programming the NAMM Show. For you can't walk 10 feet without bumping into something or someone that's going to help your business succeed. We can do that all year round, but we need to get all the people in a centralized location, and we need the data to understand what we need to offer them. So that's the future of NAMM.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not trying to give you too much pushback here, John. I just know that from someone who tries to capture data at times so that you can inform your own business, the big question around it is, hey, put up this QR code so you can get them to leave their information. And the question that everybody in marketing will always respond with asking, well, what are you giving them to click that QR code?
Oh, yeah.
Because people don't just want to click a QR code. They don't just want to just give you their data. They want to get something, a basic observation of economics from Adam Smith like 400 years ago is that you can reliably count on people to take care of their own interests rather than hope for their benevolence. And it doesn't mean people are selfish. It just means that we're motivated by the things we need. I need to eat. That's going to take priority right now, or I need to buy inventory for my store. Okay, I'm going to the NAMM Show. That's why they show up. Now, there are other people who go there and get the education. There's staff who get brought along for the education. But let's face it, they get brought along with a team with the buyer. And there's not a lot of people who show up at the NAMM Show just for NAMM U, even if it might be the best thing that happens to them at that show. The thing that they're getting for sure is they're going to find new product to buy and sell at the show. And so, I'm curious to know what NAMM will do, and you don't have to tell me in this moment, but I'm curious to know what you're going to do to solve that marketing conundrum that everybody who's looking to capture data has to do with, and that's motivating that person to give you the information in the first place. What's in it for me impulse.
Yeah. No, of course. I mean, it starts with the NAMM show. I mean, if you want to get a badge at the NAMM show, you have to give us data. In fact, they've been giving us this data for years. It's just been, to different services. You fill out all the information for your badge, company name, industry segment, all that. Like centralizing all of that is key to this. And that's not new. That's just give us that once at NAMM and you don't have to
Mm-hmm.
give it to anyone else again because we already have it. Um, and then I think outside the NAMM show, what you're hitting on is, and this is what's right on top of mind for us right now. Why would, when we launch this, new member resource center or, online portal for members, why is a company going to take time and say, let me add, what employees do I need to add to have access to NAMM benefits? Like that's what we need to get to. And so for us, it's you have to have incentives. And what's the incentive? And so just like we programmed the NAMM show, we think, is there enough for pro audio? Is there enough for live touring? Is there enough for guitar? Is there enough for pedals? We think about all these things at the NAMM show. So we think about it the same way on this new, member dashboard. Is there enough for all the different segments? But it's really about that employee. And that employee, back to your point, is about the me. They want to press the me button, not the we button.
Mm-hmm.
And so that me button is like, is there something that's going to help me get a promotion? Is there education that's going to help me in my job? Is there some marketing clinic that's going to help me learn more to be more productive or better use of tools or whatever it is? So we'll definitely be testing. The other thing that it helps us do, and is where all of this is tied into all of our marketing technology too, so we can be a lot more strategic, just to like, let's send an email to everyone on our list. Who opened, who clicked the button, who went to the website, who took action, that entire funnel, we can
Mm-hmm.
track that now. And we
Mm-hmm.
know, you know what, this message is not resonating with anyone in this particular segment or at this particular career level. What message will? So we definitely built the tools to test and evaluate. And that's how we're going to approach it and really over the next 3 years to figure out what we can do. But I do believe, as far as, I mean, I believe it because I do get to set the strategic direction. The strategy moving forward is, if we're going to grow as an association and we're going to continue to be effective year round, I can't visit 70,000 people. I can't have our team pick up the phone
Mm-hmm.
and call 400,000 employees at all of our member companies. So how can we use tools and technology to increase our reach at people
Mm-hmm.
working in the industry and hear from them as to what they want from us as their association?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No, I get why you would do it, and I get why it would result in something good. But I also see the challenges to getting the buy-in and making it happen, and so I'm I'm always curious to know what we're doing to make those things happen. I'll tell you that right now on the BGS tour, we've we want people coming to our website. We want people coming to the Boutique Guitar Showcase website because we group a lot of information there. It's the one place you can come to find all these amazing, unique, world-class instrument makers without the people who use those taglines and keywords who don't belong there. Because that's
Mm-hmm.
what happens when you go to YouTube or Google. You put in, boutique guitar or world-class guitar, amazing guitar, or luxury guitar, whatever it happens to be. You get these people who just want to be seen as that, but aren't that.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Boutique Guitar Showcase is a curated show. And basically it depends, you have to get through me or I have to invite you to be a part of it, which is what keeps it at a particular level. It's a level of discrimination, a healthy level of discrimination, to sort of keep a clear vision or clear definition as to what is there. But we have to answer the questions as to why would someone want to go check it out in the first place. We know that once they're there, they're going to have a good experience. And so you can say that once somebody is a NAMM member, they can benefit from all of these things. And that will improve their quality of life. They'll have access to all of this. But the challenge is, how do you get them there? And sometimes it feels like tricking them. And we don't mean to trick them. So we look at this cost benefit ratio. And so we used to put out these spec sheets, which were always a pain. They could only be so big to have the information in front of each guitar. And this year, we've put way more effort into putting it online. And we put out a name, a price, and a QR code. And we developed a whole web page per guitar with high quality photos, spec sheets, a link to information about the guitar maker, their history, interviews with them, all this stuff. Now you say, well, that's worth clicking on because I cannot present all that in front of the guitar. So listen, if you don't want that, no problem. But if you want to go deeper, if you want to know more about this guitar maker, where they're from, all of the detailed specs, you want to know the radius of the fretboard and exactly what kind of pickups are in it and such, click here. If you don't, no problem. Move on. But that is the incentive, the thing that makes them say, oh, okay, I do want to go. And then once they're on the website, they go, oh, hopefully they're going to say, well, this is great. I want more of this. And then we earn the customer. And so you laid out this big dream of connecting with everybody in the industry, everybody in the warehouse, the people who are climbing the lighting rigs, those amazing almost acrobats in their shorts, who scale those lighting rigs, and it's like, wow, how do you get those people there to be able to recognize the benefits? And so it's not that you have a bad plan. I was just looking at it going, wow, that's an ambitious plan. That's a lot of work how do you get all those people in there?
Oh, for sure. Well, it also starts with having the door that they can actually walk through. And I think that's the step we're on now. I mean, and a lot of these folks, again, they in NAMM Show terms, they might have previously been referred to as yellow badges. Mm-hmm. But in our world, like, we don't want 50% of the show being yellow badges. We want everyone being qualified as an individual who adds value to the industry, people understanding what that value is to each other, and us just through the amount of, the registration process alone, we should leave with knowing who 70,000 people are, their value to the industry and how they're interacting, and have enough data to understand what could we do year round, and we can survey them. We get, we can reach out to them. And I think that's another thing too, as an association, I mean, we serve, not sell. So the benefit is we're not a for-profit company trying to sell a web platform. I'm not trying to make up features to convince someone that you have to come to my platform and pay for my subscription service. Mm-hmm. People pay us membership dues and expect benefits. And the number one thing that's loud and clear is a company paying membership dues. The first question is, well, can all of my employees access? I mean, what do I get for membership dues? And the first thing we want to say is, well, every single person that works for you, not just you as authorized contact or the billing person or whoever pays the dues. And that was one piece that was missing. We still had platforms that, again, that were based on there's a single voting member and the bylaws, and that voting member, and we still have all of that. I mean, none of that association things changed, but we also realized that. And I'll tell you another this came to with consolidation. Here's another reason driving all of this. We are in a period of high consolidation. Company, quote, goes out of business. Company's bought by another company. This door is closing. They're acquired by so-and-so. In NAMM's world, our membership's declining. Mm-hmm. And it's not, and yes, sadly, there are some companies going out of business. But more often, there are companies being acquired. Mm-hmm. And when big company A acquires little company B, in NAMM's current way of, or NAMM's previous way of thinking, we lost company B as a member. We're down, send a report to the board, we're down a member. We didn't lose that member. They're, you look at some of these companies that now represent like 12 brands. Mm-hmm. There was a time that was 12 NAMM members. Now it's one NAMM member. But so we had to rethink the way of like, well, how do we think about our industry so that we're accurately representing them? And so when a company acquires another company, great. We still have, let's say, a CRM of active 220,000 people in our industry. And just because so-and-so now reports up to so-and-so or is owned by so-and-so, that doesn't change who we serve. And that was a big shift that we had to make just to make sure we as an association were keeping up with the shape of our industry today.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. As a guitar builder and a player, you have a sense for when something's working right. That's why so many of the world's best trust D'Addario. Unmatched tone, perfect intonation, and strings made to the tightest tolerances in the industry. That reputation is no accident. It's the result of 400 years of being obsessed with quality and innovation. D'Addario. When you know, you know. So,
I understand how it might have happened where the consolidated thinking, because, your relationship is with who's registering, who's buying the membership. You have a sales call to say, hey, renew your membership. Hopefully you
Hmm.
want to renew your membership. And so those two calls became one call or one email. Um, because you don't have, if they own 12 brands, you don't have 12 different memberships. You have one membership for that company, right? And
Correct.
so that level of consolidation happens. But seeing an overview of the entire industry and serving the different brands, I mean, besides the optics of it, how does that, well, why do we need to do that?
Yeah, so love it. I can't tell you how many weeks and hundreds and probably thousands of hours have been spent thinking about this very topic
Mm-hmm.
over a couple of years. We, as the association for the global music products industry, like our data structure, our thinking, our strategies that come out of the data we have and the way we think about our industry, we need to have a accurate representative look at our industry. Like we need to be able to look at data and understand this is our industry. And with consolidation and shaping and make sure we're reaching the right people. Because back to the example we both used already about you have 12 companies that now over time have now one company. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that was not only 12, 12 member dues. That's a different story. That used to be 12 people that we'd engage with. Each company had an authorized person. Now
Mm-hmm.
we're only engaging with one person at a huge company. We're not reaching the people in that business. We don't have the capability to reach the people. So just opening a portal where hundreds, if not thousands, of employees of a company could, be registered and could be associated. It gives us a holistic view of the industry. And the brands piece is really fascinating. One of the challenges we've had is keeping up with brands and keeping up with all the acquisitions because no one signs a deal and says, let me call NAMM and make sure they know,
Right.
please call NAMM and let us know. We love you. We want to know. So we actually follow all the trade magazines. I have, many on my desk here. We flip through the magazines and update our data. It's like, oh, so-and-so's not working for so-and-so. We look at all of that because we want to know our industry. But you think about like back to if NAMM is a business,
Mm-hmm.
we are the oldest trade, like B2B trade association in the United States. And I think in the world, I can't say I've researched everything, but at 125 years old, we are the oldest national B2B trade association. Why have we existed that long? It's because we're a relationship business. Like I believe we at NAMM exist to know and serve our industry. And yes, that takes the form of a trade show. Or back to what we talked about at the beginning, gathering, serving, growing. There's a lot of things we do. But I really go back to like, we need to be able to look at our industry and understand who it is. And we couldn't do that, with, oh, this accounting system said this person paid an invoice for a booth. Oh, but then there's someone else may not paid a membership. Oh, but then this registration system said these people registered. So for us, it was like, we don't have a holistic picture of our industry. So we reorganized a little bit internally, created a large business development department. Every company has a dedicated rep who's in charge of making sure their data is accurate and understanding their business holistically. We created a whole new, and we're using Salesforce, but we hired a partner that we've been working with for over 9 months now to reimagine our data structure and customize it. And it was fascinating talking to this big national company who does these sort of like, Salesforce rebuilds for all sorts of
Mm-hmm.
corporations, nonprofits and for profits, and even them being challenged, which really interesting about how unique our industry is in some ways. In some ways,
Mm-hmm.
we're not unique. Consolidation is not unique. But when you look at like this idea of like, what's a brand? Well, what's a subsidiary? What's a parent company and a child company? Well, what's a member? Is a member
Mm-hmm.
a person? Is a member a company? Well, what's a brand? Is a brand a company? Is a brand a product? Is a brand an industry segment? And it's like, well, yes, it could be all. A brand could be a trumpet. A brand could be an entire company. A brand could be one line that one company makes of
Mm-hmm.
something else.
I mean,
But
look at
what,
Yamaha
oh, and
trying
Yamaha
to
could be
find
everything. Yeah.
Yamaha. whether it's a snowmobile, a motorcycle, or a trumpet or piano. Like that's
It broke people's brains. So we actually had to really think about this. And it's actually really cool. I mean, I think there's some study to do to get it right. But this idea of like, how do we report on this? Like what we need, because we as an association have built now a new system to be able to say, how many member companies do we represent? And is that like active, membership subscriptions, or is that how many companies in our industry? That's a different number. How many people work in those companies? That's a different number. How many brands do those companies? That's a bigger number. And being able to just truly understand, because I think everyone in our industry counts on NAMM to say someone's got to look and understand our industry. What's the shape of it? How many brands and how many companies and how many owners and how many employees? Like that to me is like Association 101. We should know that. And knowing that helps us, like you said, know who we're serving. Are we serving a brand? Are we serving a company? Are we serving a large consolidated company? Are we serving a first year? I just got a job as a sales associate at a boutique store selling high-end guitars, and I need to figure out what our industry is. How does that person come to NAMM and get value? So lots of opportunity. It'll take years for people to start seeing us as, I think, a place to go for value all year round. But that's the strategy, and that's global as well. Anywhere in the world, we believe someone should say, I am making, manufacturers, selling, distributing musical products. I need to be part of NAMM because there's value for me as a business. That is the very ambitious goal we have.
Yeah, I mean, I see it, but I get all the time people not seeing it. They don't renew their membership unless they're coming to the show. It's someone come. I asked someone to come to be a part of the show. They're coming back like, oh, I'm going to have to renew my membership. It's because they let it lapse. If they're not coming to the show, they're not renewing their membership. And so I know it's a real challenge. And so I'm curious to see what you do to add value and to communicate value across the globe. And certainly I would like to learn more about it, because I'm certainly in your corner every day and talking about it. And so but I've been traveling the world, meeting face to face with people like you're going out there and doing already for decades. And when someone tells me I don't need to meet with people anymore, I can do that online, it's you almost don't quite know what to say. It's like, that's wrong, but how do you communicate that's wrong? Do you know how important human interaction is? Let me express one thing to you if you want a wake-up moment. The worst possible punishment that we have in our prison systems is called solitary confinement.
Yeah.
And a human will literally lose their mind if they don't come in contact with other humans. Like, we fall apart. That's how important face-to-face interaction is as a species. You will cease to be human if you do not interact with other humans. And so the idea that we can downplay the importance of face-to-face interaction is almost dumbfounding when I get hit with it at first. Like, okay, wait a second. They mean this. So let's talk this through. Let's figure out what that is. But getting out there, meeting people, seeing them face to face, understanding who they are, not taking them for granted. That person who is a yellow badge today, because I know there's lots of people who work for companies who look at those yellow badges and they're angry, those in the way of my business, and that's insane, kickers. Man, because I remember getting into, I didn't get down to the NAMM show. That was a long way from where I was in Canada, but we had a show, an association called the MIAC Association in Canada years ago. And I remember them opening the doors to the public as a kid and going and seeing and trying things and going to some concerts there. And I can still remember that to this day. I still think about that at least a few times a year, that moment that I had. And so that all built towards who I am today. And so interacting with anybody who's passionate or interested even in making music and musical instruments should be our privilege, and NAMM provides the best opportunity to do that anywhere in the world. And so whenever somebody, tells me, "Oh, I'm not sure if I'm coming," I'm like, man, you cannot put tens of thousands or 100,000 people into a room who want to talk about musical instruments and keep me away. I will be there, and I'm going to make stuff happen.
Yes. I'm glad you hit the yellow badge thing on the head. And there's been so much. It's so great when so many things click. And through this whole new, NAMM.org profile and portal, one thing we've realized is that it was driven a little bit by who are the yellow badges. And by the way, these are invited by NAMM members. Just so we're all clear, NAMM isn't going out and saying, "Hey, everyone, come on, y'all." Like, members get allotments to invite people, and it's members who are inviting their guests. And so one of the areas is that, well, and we've heard it too, that we have some people that want, some people say, "I want NAMM to be a complete consumer experience." And some people say, "I want trade only." And some people say, "Well, there's value in high qualified folks," and et cetera, et cetera. And of course, we're looking at all of that. But one area, like, we hear what people say, but also what we found, and again, I've listened to a lot of folks, I've heard so many contradicting opinions from people that I would think that would all agree. And when I dug in and I asked more questions, people's opinions are based on, well, their experiences. And sometimes someone's opinions of what NAMM should do holistically was because they might have had a booth in a certain place that they didn't feel like had a lot of traffic, or they had a bad experience at the show, or they said, I'll give you an example. I won't call anyone out. Someone's like, "Oh, I didn't see any of my buyers in this segment. You have no one in this segment coming." So, oh my gosh, well, hold on a second. So I went back. This is a real example. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. So I go back and look at the registration data, and I call the person back and said, "Oh my goodness, we have failed because," and I read the numbers to this person of all the actual buyers. And I just read company names because I didn't feel like I didn't into it. I said, "Look, they're like, all those people were at the show." I said, "They were." So we need to, how can we help you get the buyers to your booth? Because you're saying, and you're going, none of these people are at the NAMM show. But in fact, and I was like upset. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I thought they were." And that's a perfect example of like, well, where's that miss happening? And that was something that happened in 24. And that was a big change, a reason that we kind of looked at, said, okay, well, how do we is there different technology we can use on the NAMM Show app and map that can connect the right people? So if this particular booth, because not everyone at the NAMM Show is going to see 70,000 people. You're not at the NAMM Show to see 70,000 people. You might be there to see 70 that matter a lot to you, and maybe 700 that kind of matter to you. So our job is for that each exhibitor to figure out, how do I reach the 700 that matter to me? And can I do that through like segmented promo blast to the people I want to reach? And can I do that through different brand exposure and brand experience, the way I set up my booth on the digital map? So when people say, "I'm looking for high-end guitars," that leads them to the boutique guitar showcase. Like, so those type of like data pieces, not to get data nerdy, is kind of what led that we need people that come to the NAMM Show to fill out profiles so we know who they are. And we need to give brands the opportunity to provide brand experiences so those people can find them. And then we need to we need to be in the middle of that. So after the show, we can report on, did the right people find each other? And if not, what could we do in the next show to make that happen? I'll give you another example. The yellow badge piece is also very interesting. You'll see when we open NAMM Show registration on September 10th, there's no such thing as general attendee anymore. We've moved to a qualified attendee language. And these are still yellow. They're still yellow badges. But two things are going to happen here. One is that everyone with an allotment to invite people to the NAMM Show, which are exhibitors and retail members of NAMM, every NAMM member gets an allotment. They can use their allotment for their employees. They can use it, or they can use it for qualified attendees. And so we define for them who we as NAMM expect to attend the show and how these people add value. And so we have a list, and it'll be published online, of all the different roles that are qualified to attend the NAMM show. And then when that person accepts the invite, they'll go to NAMM.org and they'll qualify, they'll create a profile. And in that profile, we ask them, are you a corporate buyer? Are you an artist? Are you in education? We have all these different categories, and we have, I think it was 12 categories and 46 or 50 different roles right now that we came up with. But we can actually qualify these people. So that way we understand. And the badge footers, I think there's now 27 different options on the bottom of the footer, last I counted. So the cool thing is that you'll see at the NAMM show qualified attendees, you'll look at their badge and not just see yellow, but like, oh, you're a non-member corporate buyer that's looking for a sound system for your venue. Okay. Aha. That's someone that I need to talk to. And in the past, that could have been like, that person was there, but they, hey bro, can I bum a badge from a friend of a friend who got him a badge? And like the NAMM business card, where you take your left hand and you cover your badge and you put your business card out with your right hand. You say, oh no, this isn't me. This is me. Don't look at this. Look at that. How many times at the NAMM show do you see that? Like, oh, this is just a badge I got from so-and-so. This is who I am. Well, now the goal is your badge is who you are.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, good. It could be interesting to have little icons of things like a speaker or a guitar or a saxophone, things like that. So almost like, you go to like a flight attendant and they'll have their name badge and it'll say like English, Spanish, French.
Yeah.
These are the languages that I speak. And I mean, I'd be even curious to sort of see what icons are on the people who I know's badges, because I'll end up with a drum badge on mine. And all the people who still run Tama and Pearl and Sabian, all those guys know I'm a drummer and that I worked in the drum industry, but most of the people in the BGS have no idea that I play drums. It'll be fun just to sort of see each other in just as a communal, hey, we're all musicians, I didn't know you did that kind of fun way.
Yeah, we have some more, and with our new registration, we'll have we have little larger badges this year. So actually, it's funny. We do have more badge real estate,
like breastplates.
I think huge badges, like just complete, like it'll turn like just full on T-shirts, customized with like
perfect. I'd like mine with a crab fork, please. Yeah,
exactly. Maybe flare like up the lanyard. We could do little pins so you have like. Like the flags on a ship that's just going to go up and go around. You can have all sorts of different.
Love it.
Yeah. A lot of cool happening, though. I think for us, setting ourselves up for like just understanding who's at the show and who has value and just making sure we're super attuned to that and we have all the tools we need to measure it, because we want to do right for our industry. And one of the ways, back to like my travel, we are out there asking questions. We're getting lots of information. And now we'll have the data to go back and say, ooh, there's a theory. Let me see it. Let me test that theory. And I think that's really cool. And also just if we are, to your point, if we are going to be super valuable 365 days a year, not just 5 days a year, what do we need to do those 360 days and who do we need to reach? Well, it all starts with who do we know? What do they want? And are they coming to us and getting that thing? And so we have lots of fun toys to play with for many, many years.
Great. Well, John, you certainly get the big complicated job award on Life with Strings Attached.
It's so much fun. It's so much fun. It really is. I'm the best. I get to work with the best people in the world. Like I get to do these interviews. I just can't say enough about the NAMM staff and how dedicated they are. They're just the best people in the world.
Wonderful. I always throw it back to my guests before we wrap things up. John, is there a topic or a question that I should have asked you about that I have failed to do so far that you were hoping we were going to talk about today?
That's a good question. I think we've actually went in many directions that I didn't expect to go, which is fascinating. I loved it. No, I've really, I've loved the conversation. If there's anything else I'd want to add to the conversation is, we haven't talked enough about the NAMM Foundation in this conversation, but I would just say that, all the excitement I talked about the NAMM show and member benefits, we're doing just as much work on how we think about creating more music makers and building a stronger workforce globally. Super proud of what the NAMM Foundation's doing, and you're going to see some really amazing results of new grantees, more grant funding, more scholarships, lots of amazing work there. And at the end of the day, back to the big complicated, job award and all that, and the NAMM staff, the reason that we do it all is because we know we can give back. And it's so no conversation is complete without just admiring and praising the work of the NAMM Foundation.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing all this roll out in person as we come down. And I know that while we're on tour, we're going to stop by the NAMM office in San Diego. We're looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing things there and seeing you and all the crew. John, thank you so much for being on Life with Strings Attached today. I really appreciate you taking the time and catching up and let me see what's going on in your life. So
awesome. Well, thank you, Jamie. Always great to talk with you, and looking forward to seeing you in person a couple times coming up here.
Yeah, hope so. All right. Take care for now.
Thank you.
Bye.
You've been listening to Life with Strings Attached. If today's conversation meant something to you, consider passing it on. These stories find their place through the people who share them. A new episode comes out every Friday, right here, wherever you're listening. I'm Jamie Gale, and thanks for listening to Life with Strings Attached.